Sorry about that. Hi, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Ashley Ariana, and the 49ers just had an embarrassing, joke of a game, a joke of a performance. This team is not a good team. The 49ers are not a good football team this season. That's it. They need to stop acting. I just saw a clip of Deommodore Lenoir in the locker room, basically saying the Cardinals got lucky and, stole one on them, but it was just a coincidence. And if they were to play 10 games, the 49ers would win most games. They need to stop having that attitude. This is no longer the football team that made it to the Super Bowl. This is not the football team that has made it to multiple NFC championship games. This is a bad team right now. Even in previous seasons, when the 49ers have had their lulls during the season, those were to good teams. Right now, the 49ers have not hit the hardest part of their schedule yet, and they are losing to bad teams and bad teams within their division. Now, it's still possible for them to make the playoffs. If they win next week, they'll be 3-3. Luckily, the rest of the division sucks. But this is not a team that you feel confident if they're going against a good defense could actually make an impact. This is not a team that you even think if they did manage to make it into the playoffs, could they beat a playoff defense? Could they beat a AFC team that has talent on both offense and defense? I don't think so. The 49ers have had many problems on all sides of the football. The special teams has been trash since way before this year. The defense is not the defense that we remember it being. The D line cannot get home. They cannot get pressure. They can't get fucking sacks. And the secondary sucks. Hafunga came back today, then left with a wrist injury. He's bad. Malik Mustafa did decent. He was the only bright spot. Deommodore Lenoir did decent. I felt like the defense held up during the first half, and then just the defensive tackling and the misses that they had on defense in the second half was horrendous. But even saying that, I mean, on the Cardinals' very first possession, Kyler Murray ran all the way for a touchdown right after the 49ers went 3-and-out. Now, what I think is most concerning has been the 49ers' red zone woes. The 49ers cannot score touchdowns in the red zone. In the second half, the 49ers were up by 10 before the Cardinals came back and won the game. But the 49ers should have been up by 14, maybe even more, because they scored 3 field goals that should have been touchdowns. So on offense right now, by the way, so the loss was 24 Cardinals to 23 49ers, but on offense, they only scored 16 points. This team is not scoring touchdowns. You can walk down the field, but once they get in the red zone, interception, fumble, drop. They cannot score in the freaking red zone. I mean, one of the touchdowns was because of Deommodore Lenoir, who blocked a punt for the Cardinals and returned it for a touchdown. I think that's what's upsetting too. When you look at this game, how many opportunities I see a lot of people, Jose in here is talking about the defense, see a lot of people blaming the defense. And obviously, if you've been a fan of the 49ers a long time, you're used to the defense carrying this team and they're not living up to that standard. But at this point, we know that the defense isn't the defense of old, and the money is on the offense. The offense should be able to carry the defense. The defense got tired. It was record-breaking 103-degree recorded temperature on the field in the middle of the game. In the first half, the defense held James Conner, the Cardinals running back. First half, he had 6 carries for only 9 yards. They were playing their asses off. Obviously, they're going to get hot. They're going to get run down. So then the second half, freaking horrific run defense. James Conner's second half, more than double the carries, 13 carries for 77 yards. I mean, he just ran all over him. That's not even counting Kyler Murray, who ran for multiple first downs, ran for a touchdown, just was averaging, I think, more yards than Jordan Mason was averaging, their quarterback was. So really, really horrific tackling, really horrific run defense on the defensive part. But I blame the offense. The offense should be able to score touchdowns. You're paying Ayuk $30 million. Now, I will say this was finally a game that Ayuk showed up in. This is the best game that he's played all year. I don't know if he's finally in football shape after the holdout, although he kind of even struggled in the playoffs in the Super Bowl last year. But I don't know what it was. Ayuk, I thought, had a good game. He didn't score any touchdowns, but he made a couple really good deep passes. That's another thing. And Tom Brady, who was calling the game, talked about this. There's been zero offensive creativity for the 49ers. The Arizona Cardinals coming into this game, I have it written down. Where do I have it written down? The Arizona Cardinals gave up 146 rushing yards per game, 146 rushing yards per game coming into this game with the 49ers. The 49ers have Jordan Mason, who supposedly can run the rock. He had 14 carries for 89 yards, so that's 6.4 average yards. Why did the 49ers wait till the second half to start running Jordan Mason? They were just throwing the ball down the field every other game. Zero play action was going on, zero running the ball down the Arizona Cardinals throws. And let's say in the first half, those throws were working, getting them down to the red zone. But once you were in the red zone, the passing game was not working. The 49ers could not score. So, okay, let's say throwing it to George Kittle was working. Throwing it to Brandon Ayuk was working. Throwing it to Debo was not working. Where the fuck was Debo today? But if that's working to get you all the way down the field, I'm in support of doing that. But exactly, pass, drop back pass happy. Once you get into the red zone, you know that that's no longer working. So why don't you start running the ball with Jordan Mason then? They could have easily, Jordan Mason, like I said, averaging 6.4 yards per carry, and the Arizona Cardinals were second last. Their defense was second last in being able to stop the run. By the way, 49ers are right behind them because our run defense also fucking sucks. But I'm just saying, once they got into the red zone, the throwing the ball was not working. There was fumbles, there was interceptions. It was hideous drop passes. It was obviously not working because they couldn't do it and they didn't know what to do once their kicker went down. I think that there was multiple opportunities where Kyle could have handed Jordan Mason the ball and the 49ers walk away with 7 points instead of 3. And if every time in that first half they got 3 points, they actually got 7, the 49ers would have won this game. So they're just a bad team. Okay, so my main takeaways were the red zone collapse. This has been an issue. I don't know how Kyle Shanahan fixes it. You need to start running the ball in the end zone. You need to get the ball to Juwan Jennings, who he did leave the game for like a play in the first half with a wrist injury, but then he was back in the game. He has a big body. You don't need to be super fast when you're in the red zone because you're not going a far distance. You just need a wide radius and to be able to catch a contested catch. So they could have thrown to Jennings more, could have thrown to Kittle more. Kittle had one drop. It was pretty rare for him, but it wasn't in the red zone. I would target Kittle in the red zone more. You saw just last game against the Patriots, he had that miraculous catch with like 3 guys on him. Joe B is saying throw some freaking screen passes. I mean, this offense used to be known for those creative disguises, and then you end up everyone's queuing in on the running back, and you actually toss it off to Debo, and he runs it in. There was no attempts at that. I really don't know why Kyle Shanahan got so fixated on just drop back pass, especially when pass protection is a huge issue with this team right now. Though when you first started seeing cracks, which I mean, I guess you could say you saw cracks right away because they went 3 and out in the first offensive possession. But one of the first indicators like, oh, something's switching in this game was the first penalty that the 49ers had after playing a clean game for the first half was on Drake Brendel, who was just getting pushed back into Brock Purdy. And then bam, so they take the penalty, they move backwards. Next play, Kyle calls finally a run to Jordan Mason. And it's an excellent run. Jake Brendel is somewhere downfield making a block. By the way, Jordan Mason is on the left. Jake Brendel's on the right. So it didn't help it didn't help Jordan Mason at all, but it gets called back. So that's 2 automatic back-to-back penalties that were on Jake Brendel. This offensive line is horrible, and Brock Purdy played a bad game, um, especially in the second half. I think when he started getting stressed, it's interesting because I had written down all the time. I was like, oh, like even though his stats aren't completely showing it, I thought Brock Purdy was doing really good, escaping pressure with his legs, and I felt like he was in under a lot of pressure with the offensive line breaking down, and he was making things happen. He was throwing the ball deep. By the way, anyone who says Brock Purdy doesn't have a good deep ball arm, he was throwing it to George Kittle down the field. George Kittle dropped it. He threw it down the field to Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk caught it both times. We love that for Ayuk. So I thought he was making good throws and utilizing his legs. He ran for multiple first downs, which is clutch. I mean, that is a factor that I don't think the 49ers really had with any quarterback that they had consistently. Jimmy Garoppolo sure as hell couldn't do that. I mean, Brock Purdy, the defense had to account for the fact that he could run for anywhere from 5 to 15 yards. He could run and get the first down. So I thought that was incredible. But once the pressure started getting to him, he kind of reverts back and he starts playing hero ball, and he's taking chances that every once in a while you want your quarterback to be able to feel confident in their arm and trust their guy and make a risky throw, but that can't be every single time. And the 49ers, the end of the at the end of the game, their final possessions in the second half were INT, interception, turnover on downs, Jordan Mason fumble, Brock Purdy interception. So you're not going to win the game. I mean, they were up by 10, and then the Cardinals were coming back. And what did the 49ers do on offense to combat that? Okay, second half, the defense has kept you in the game. You've been scoring, but you can't score touchdowns, but you've been scoring field goals. What are you going to do when the defense starts getting tired? They're hot out there, they're running. What are you going to do? Are you gonna score field goals at least, attempt to? And for anyone, I don't want to hear any excuse. And I did watch the press conferences, and it kind of pissed me off because it felt like Kyle was trying to be like, oh well, we would have played it differently, but we lost our kicker. The Arizona Cardinals lost their kicker. They had a backup kicker, and their backup kicker had his freaking field or his punt blocked and returned for a touchdown by freaking Deommodore Lenoir, which was a great play by Deommodore Lenoir. But I'm saying those things even out. You can't say, oh well, we didn't have Jake Moody. Well, they didn't have whoever the fuck their kicker was, and they took a 7-point loss because of it. So you're not allowed to use the freaking kicker excuse. There's no excuse for that. Mitch was I can't say that. Mitch W, our punter, he did make a field goal. It was 28 yards or something. So I don't think he felt confident doing anything long. At one point at the end of the game, they were trying to decide should they be aggressive or should they kick a field goal, and it was like 34 yards and they were aggressive. So I don't know how confident he was in how far he could kick. But honestly, I was glad that they were aggressive. I just think they went about it wrong. Like, I think they should be more aggressive. Once again, they have $60 million wrapped up in Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. George Kittle is the highest paid tight end. Friggin' Jordan Mason is a stud. Throw them the ball. Jawan Jennings had the game of his freaking life 2 games ago. He had an excellent third down catch this game. Target him. Why is all of a sudden he not getting targets? Oh, because you're taking him off the field. Instead of playing in 11 personnel, you're playing in 21 with Kyle Juszczyk, who, no offense to Kyle Juszczyk, but what the fuck are you doing here? 0 catches, 0 targets, 0 anything. I mean, I'm assuming he's helping pass block because the O-line does suck, as people have been talking about in the comments. But and by the way, this is another thing that Tom Brady said, because they were saying, like, what do you do when you have all these offensive weapons? Like, how do you get them all on the field? And Tom Brady, someone who's historically with the Patriots played in 11 and 12 personnel, did not have a fullback. He said, well, Jawan Jennings can block, so they should put him in there more often. Basically saying there should be less opportunity for Kyle Juszczyk to be in the game, because Why are we not throwing it to Juwan Jennings? He can do the same blocking assignments. Or if you're a Juszczyk supporter, and sometimes he did, I mean, last game I thought he had a really good game, then throw him the ball every once in a while. Make it so he's impactful. Don't take an offensive weapon off the field. Don't stop targeting people and just sit there. And then when your quarterback is having rushers at his throat in 2 seconds because freaking your offensive line can't block and none of your guys are getting open, that's why you need to either have Jennings on the field because he's going to be someone that the defense forgets because they're busy targeting Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. So Jennings just gets open. Or if you do have Juszczyk, maybe sometimes instead of always keeping him to block, throw it to him because once again, he's another one that people aren't going to think to cover all the time. But that would be creative. And right now, this team is not creative. This offense is boring. Its drop back passes are the worst part of Kyle Shanahan's system. Kyle Shanahan, I feel like his bread and butter was play action. He barely did any play action today. Running the hell out of the football, tough, physical football was always something the 49ers were known as. They were the bullies, blah, blah, blah. They haven't been, I saw someone say that today. Oh, the Cardinals just, bullied the bullies. No, the 49ers are no longer bullies. Who have they bullied? The fucking Patriots? The Jets? And that game wasn't a bully game. The Jets almost won. And the Jets are a bad freaking football team. And the 49ers are a bad football team. Last week, the Arizona Cardinals, by the way, just to clear any rumors, because Kyler is good, Marvin Harris Jr. is good, James Conner is good. Their defense fucking sucks, and their offense isn't that great yet. And they're an up-and-coming team. Washington, they played Washington last week, dog-walked the hell out of this team. That's what a good team does. If the 49ers would have won this game, kicking field goals, I was still going to come on here and say, this is unacceptable. This team should be dog walking the Cardinals. If this is a Super Bowl team, this is a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Deebo Samuel sat on his freaking little podcast, and I know I have a freaking podcast. Sorry, whatever. Deebo Samuel sat on his podcast, which is fine for him to do. Love that he has a podcast. But instead, he, with Brandon Ayuk 2 weeks ago, said the 49ers are the best football team in the NFL and have been the best football team in the NFL. Guess who doesn't say that, by the way? The Chiefs. Do you know why? Because they have a trophy. When you win the Super Bowl, that means you're the best team in the NFL. You don't get a consolation prize. You don't get to be, what did Diomero Lenore? They got lucky. They accidentally got one on us. They lucked out. If we were to play them again, that wouldn't happen. That's bullshit. Following a weather delay, the Cowboys-Steelers game is postponed. Well, good. That means you guys can stay here and watch me. By the way, anyways, what I'm saying is the Cardinals just got dog walked by the Washington Commanders, and that's a team that actually looks like a good team, which is crazy because they have Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. But I think Cliff is really good with college system scheme because when he was in charge of the Cardinals, it ended up not working after a few years. But the first year that he was there with Kyler Murray, weren't they pretty dominant because people weren't used to the college style? So I feel like with is it Jaden Daniels? He's been a good rookie quarterback for them. Their defense has been super tough and physical. And they dog walked the Cardinals last week. And then this week, the Cardinals made the 49ers look ridiculous. That didn't really help that did it? Anyways, you tell me how this rest of the season sounds, this next stretch. Because I feel like the 49ers, when I was predicting games, wins, and losses in the in the off season before the season started, I thought that this part right now, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Rams. By the way, I didn't even know the Rams were going to be injured. I thought the actual Rams with all their players, I thought that was the easy part of the schedule. And the 49ers, so somehow this has been the hardest part. In order to get back up to speed and to compete within their division, to compete to get into the playoffs at all. I mean, this seems like a 9-8 team, an 8-9 team, like a middle of road, average at best, bad freaking football team. Look at this next stretch. Thursday. So in 4 days, I think they have 1 day off and they have some walkthroughs and then they're going to fly to Seattle and play. They're going to play Seattle. Did anyone in the comments tell me, did the Seahawks end up winning today? I know they were down by like 3, but then the Seahawks got the ball because that's another thing. Like, I love Brock Purdy's great. Let's go over really quick his stats. Brock Purdy, 19 of 35. I mean, it was a bad game. It was a really bad. 19 of 35 is a horrible completion percentage for 244 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Not good. We don't love that. Anyways, and he had the ball with more than enough time to walk down. He didn't have to get it all back in one throw. They could have walked down the field. They had more than enough time. By the way, really quick, Isaac Guerrero at the last possession the 49ers have, right? So the Cardinals score, and then the ball's 49ers. They had like a little less than 2 minutes to go all the way down. Like, they could have gone down, should have been able to go down and scored a freaking touchdown. But I didn't have faith in that. But I was like, maybe they can get in the field goal range for which Mitch W. So it would have been like kind of down there. But still, I thought they could have gone down there and at least kicked a field goal and won the game. But Brock Purdy tried to freaking win the game with one throw and threw a horrible pass into freaking coverage. Got an interception. First throw, right out the gate. Anyways, upcoming Seahawks lost against the Giants. Okay, so they sucked they had one game-winning drive opportunity too, and they sucked. So Thursday, 49ers are going to play the Seahawks. Then they're going to come back. They have 10 days because it's a Thursday game. They're going to come back, play the Chiefs. You feel like the 49ers are going to beat the Chiefs? I don't. My money was bet that they weren't going to beat the Chiefs before I thought they were a bad football team. Now they're definitely not going to win. After that, Cowboys. How do we know the 49ers are going to beat the Cowboys? I thought that was going to be a win. I was like, oh, Cowboys are soft. 49ers are soft. Oh, Cowboys are all hype. 49ers are all hype. Everything that the 49er fans say about Cowboys is exactly how the rest of the NFL feels about the 49ers. They're all talk. They've never won the big game. Anytime they go against a good defense, their quarterback looks like shit. Their coach is outcoached. Their defense can't stop the run. If they're playing a running quarterback, that running quarterback's going to get multiple yards and probably a touchdown on them. I mean, I will say Nick Bosa had that interception. That was good because normally Nick Bosa really struggles against the run, but he got an interception, so I love that for him. Hufanga, like I said, I don't know if maybe he's not fully healthy yet, but they can't extend him. His contract is going to be up soon. I know it seems like not that long because he missed time with his injury, but his contract's going to be up. He got an all-pro season his first season, which means he's probably going to get a big money offer from somewhere. He's not worth it. And I actually thought Malik Mustafa did really well in his place. George Odom sucks, and he was on the field for a little while, and that wasn't great. But I did feel like the highlight was Malik Mustafa. I know my dad texted me because he didn't know his name, and he was like, oh, player number 26 or whatever it is was really good. And I was like, oh, that's Mustafa. But yeah, I mean, Seahawks, Chiefs, Cowboys bye week. What's the 49ers record going into that? Let me see. I want to predict that. 49ers really quickly. 49ers. Someone is texting me and I got distracted. What am I saying? Oh, I want to know what the 49ers record is going to be. Do you guys think they're going to beat the freaking Seahawks? Because I'm not sure. I mean, the Seahawks have a better defense than the Cardinals. Geno Smith has never, ever scared me because he's always, in my opinion, peed his pants against Nick Bosa. But we've never had a defense like this before. Even Nick Bosa in his post-game press conference, by the way, said he's not accustomed to this. Like, he doesn't know exactly how to go about feeling like there's change on this defense because they've made errors before. They've had missed tackles before. They've had struggles, but they've never been this bad consistently. And Nick Bosa kept saying complementary football. And it's like the first half, the 49ers were getting down there, but they couldn't score a touchdown, and the defense was actually holding up. And then the defense gets, and by the way, and getting interceptions and getting a block punt for a freaking touchdown. Like, to me, the defense was doing its job. And then it just got tired, and the 49ers couldn't fucking score a touchdown. And then all of a sudden now people are like, oh, well, the defense sucked in the second half. It's like they did. You're right. They have limited backup because they have tons of injuries. And so when their guys got tired, they just had to keep playing tired. But I felt like that kind of happened with the Cardinals too. It was a hot game for every team. The only difference is when the Cardinals were on offense, they were actually scoring touchdowns. 16 points is how many points the offense scored. Don't let 24 to 23 fool you. Once again, one of those was on special teams by Deommodore Lenoir. And also one of those freaking it ended up only being a field goal, but one of those 3 of those points of the 49ers out of the 16 that their offense scored was set up with a short field by Nick Bosa, who got an interception. When you hear Nick Bosa, a defensive lineman, gets an interception and another cornerback gets a freaking block punt for a touchdown, you go, oh, that team probably won. Nope. They couldn't protect the quarterback. The quarterback couldn't protect the football. Jordan Mason, I mean, he's actually lucky that freaking Christian McCaffrey's hurt. I'll give you guys an update on that. Christian McCaffrey, technically, they could open his window because he was on IR. They could open Christian McCaffrey's window to come back right now. But if you've been tuned in, locked into the channel, please like and subscribe. You know that I've been updating you. And I've always said I thought there was no way it was only going to take 4 weeks, which is how long IR is 4 weeks. Because you have to remember, Christian McCaffrey rested and rehabbed all offseason, and that didn't heal it. So I was like, okay, 4 weeks isn't going to change anything. But he's flying to Germany, he's getting the surgery, yada, yada, yada. Then last week it's reported it's not just one shin, it's not just one Achilles, it's both Achilles. He has bilateral Achilles tendonitis. Kyle Shanahan said basically he was rehabbing with his injured shin and was putting too much weight on the other. I gotta stop saying shin, on the other Achilles, and ended up injuring both Achilles. Well, apparently he's had 1 good week of practice. This is breaking news, by the way. Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport reported this morning, so I'm glad that I can talk about it. He has bilateral Achilles tendonitis in both Achilles, obviously, but he's had his first good week of practice where he hasn't had any setbacks since this entire process started. Every time when he started pushing himself prior to this, he would have a flare up. Whatever PRP, regenerative stem cell treatment he got when he was in Germany, apparently is working, and he's had 1 good week. Now, the 49ers are not going to try to push it, and they're not going to have him back this week. It's reported that November 10th is the date that they're looking for. So after the bye week is when they're thinking that potentially Christian McCaffrey could start playing football again. That makes sense. Tom Jensen, who I do a show with on Tuesday, he writes for Sports Illustrated, also said that if Christian McCaffrey can go, he expects him to come back a few days before the playoffs to kind of ramp himself up. I kind of disagree. I thought that it would be a miracle if Christian McCaffrey played in the playoffs, if the 49ers even get there at this point. But if they got there at all, that Christian McCaffrey would be able to play, because I thought maybe he'd have to take the whole year off. But I said, okay, if he was going to push himself through injury, he'd probably push himself during the playoffs. I just bent my tongue. My goodness. But it was reported this morning by Adam Schefter that November 10th, they are hoping that Christian McCaffrey will be able to open his practice window and be able to play again. Now, that's assuming there's no setbacks. If you guys, like I said, were tuned into this channel at the start of the game or at the start of the season, they also, after preseason, kept saying, oh, he's definitely going to play game 1. And then after game 1 against the Jets, they were like, oh, he's definitely going to play against the Vikings. And he kept having setbacks every time they tried to push him. So I'm really hoping that they're not doing anything stupid like that, because Christian McCaffrey is on the books for all of next year with guaranteed money. And if pushing him is just going to keep setting back his rehab timeline, I hope they aren't doing that. And that's why this team can't sit and cross their fingers and go, we're just going to wait for Christian McCaffrey to come back. And once he comes back, then everything's going to be fixed. No, Kyle Shanahan, what are you getting paid millions of dollars for? You're supposed to be this offensive genius. Be a good coach. Incorporate play action. Incorporate 11 personnel. Get your best wide receivers on the field more often. If you're going against a run defense that allows 146 yards per game, once again, that's what the Cardinals were giving up prior to this game. They were getting demolished in the run game. Then if you have a guy who's averaging 6.5 yards per carry, run him in the first half. Don't wait just till the second half. What are you doing? Just throwing it down the field, giving opportunities to A, not score in the red zone, and B, have a turnover. Drop back passes are the least creative part of Kyle Shanahan's offense, especially when he has such a bad offensive line. Because that's when you get those plays. I mean, they're impressive as a fan to watch, where Brock Purdy is running, there's defenders chasing after him, and he's running, he's getting a first down, or he's running and he's throwing the ball away, or running and trying to throw a ball to someone. Sometimes it ends up a good play, but more often than not, he ends up throwing it out of bounds because it's either that or take a sack. And it's like, hey, Kyle Shanahan, instead of just letting the defense know exactly what you're doing, get creative with play action. Give the ball to Jordan Mason and have the defense questioning, is Brock Purdy going to throw it down the field or is he going to hand it off to Mason? Start doing screen passes to Debo. Those were working prior to you trading for Christian McCaffrey. Why did those just stop all of a sudden? Where was Debo this game? Anyways, Kyle Shanahan got massively outcoached. Oh, that was frustrating. But like I said, my good takeaways, my highlights of the game: Malik Mustafa looked good in the safety section, better than Hufanga, and Hufanga's going to be expensive. And Hufanga's injured. Hufanga had his ACL injury, came back last game, left with, I have it written down. Left with a wrist injury this game. Interesting. Is that true? Left with a wrist injury? Oh yeah, and because last game it was a ankle, right? So he had his ACL. He returned, injured his ankle, was able to play this week, injured his wrist. Malik Mustafa comes in. Jake Moody, he's out with a knee injury. Kyle Shanahan did make it sound like it's probably going to be, or I think Kyle Shanahan, I think it was reported as a knee injury during the game, but I did watch the post-game press conferences, and I think Kyle alluded to it being a high ankle sprain because he said it might be a few weeks for Jake Moody. So they are going to call kickers and try to get a kicker in here within the next 2 days. Tomorrow's going to be an off day for most of the players, but I imagine that they will be doing due to interviews, tryouts for kickers all tomorrow to see if they can sign one to have on the team to fly to Seattle on Wednesday. Because Jake Moody's out. And then Jair Brown, he had an ankle issue, but he also came back. Joe B says Robbie Gould. I was team never get rid of Robbie Gould. I mean, they did not keep Robbie Gould because he wanted like $9 million or something. I think they're paying Jake Moody $5 million or something. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe Robbie Gould wanted $5 million, and they ended up drafting Jake Moody. But one, they drafted Jake Moody high, so his salary actually isn't that cheap because he's not a low draft pick. And then two, wouldn't you pay $5 million if it would have guaranteed you a Super Bowl? I mean, there was a million things that went wrong. Kyle Shanahan didn't know the overtime rules. Christian McCaffrey fumbled on the goal line. But I don't want you guys to forget, Jake Moody missed an extra point that would have won the 49ers the game, and they would have never even gone to overtime in the Super Bowl. Wouldn't you pay $5 million to just have freaking Robbie Gould on your team and make that freaking kick? Robbie Gould was unbeatable. I mean, he couldn't make super long kicks, but the 49ers usually just need you to be solid within like 45. Robbie Gould could have done that. I would pay $5 million, or not, I wouldn't. I don't have $5 million. But if I was a freaking billionaire of an NFL team and had money to spare, I would rather pay the old guy maybe a little more than he's worth. I mean, they have no problem paying everyone else more than they're worth, but pay him a little bit more and at least get your freaking extra points and field goals. Like, everyone's freaking out about Jake Moody going down. It's not like Jake Moody was 100%, guaranteed to make his kicks. He's missed a kick like every game so far. He's made some too. I'm not trying to be an asshole to Jake Moody. I'm sad that he's hurt. I never want anyone to be injured. Injuries suck. Juwan Jennings, by the way, while we're on injury, he also left in the first quarter with a wrist injury, but then he was back for the rest of the game and he was fine. Joe B makes an excellent point. Not having Dre Greenlaw's really showing up on defense. Yeah, especially in tackling and just like having force and drive. D Winters came in and he actually had one really solid tackle that made an impact, and even the announcers were like, "Oh, D Winters, that rookie or that young guy over there doing his best Dre Greenlaw impression," which I thought was cute. But he did one, he's good, but he's young and he's not accustomed to this defense and he's no Dre Greenlaw. And yeah, the 49ers are missing Dre Greenlaw like crazy. Also, I mean, Fred Warner didn't make as big of an impact as he normally does, but I'm not going to harp on that too much. I know that he has an ankle injury that he's playing on. It's also not specified. Is he playing on a high ankle sprain or is it just a low ankle sprain? I kind of think if it's a low ankle, it's a severe one, because if it was just a normal low ankle sprain, he would have been able to play last week because they just can tape those up and play. And so I'm wondering if he's pushing through a pretty significant ankle injury, and it was 100 degrees. So no matter how wrapped up that shit was, I bet that shit was swelling, because even if you take the tortoisol or whatever shots that they give you that help with inflammation, what's the opposite of um, minimizing inflammation? It's getting super hot. That's how you get very inflamed, is when your body's super hot, it's expanding, you're trying to breathe, you have it wrapped up super tight. So I thought Fred Warner didn't have his best game. I also didn't feel like he had his worst game. But cornerback Charvarius Ward had a career year last year under Steve Wilks. I know everyone liked to blame Steve Wilks for all the 49ers problems last year. Doesn't seem like he was the problem now, since he was holding opposing offenses to 17 points. And this defense hasn't done that like ever, besides against the Patriots. So they've done that one game so far. So Steve Wilks doesn't look so bad anymore, by the way. And Charvarius Ward had the season of his life, literally better than when he was with the Chiefs on the Super Bowl. By the way, Charvarius Ward, Super Bowl champion. He won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. Had his best year last year. This year's having his worst year as a 49er. Marvin Harris Jr. got a couple on him that just looked embarrassing. He doesn't look as fast. He kind of looks out of position. I don't know if he has to do more because the safeties, there are so many injuries there, and linebackers, so many injuries there. Maybe there's a lot of younger guys who haven't gotten a lot of practice. Maybe they're putting more on Charvarius Ward's plate. That could be it. And he's just missing assignments because he's looking in too many places. But have you ever watched like a pee-wee football game with like little kids? And the way that little kids do defense is like they watch the guy make the catch, and then after they make the catch, they like run over and like pull their flag or tackle them. And it's like kind of laughable because it's like, no, you're supposed to get them before they get the ball. But like little kids don't understand that. And that's how the 49ers are literally playing defense right now. And that's how Ward's playing defense right now. He's not preventing the pass. He's not breaking up the pass. He's waiting for the guy to make the catch, get the first down, and then he's like tackling him and being like, "Oh yeah," and it's like, you didn't do anything. The offense is still in the field. Why are you celebrating? No offense to Charvarius Ward, because from all accounts seems like a good guy, but yeah, not having a good season. Mr. Corey agrees. Excuse me, having an awful season. Another loss like the Rams. Yeah, I mean, this 49ers team cannot close out games. They're up by 10 points. You feel like you're going to run the clock out, and then your freaking running back fumbles the football. You think you're going to make the safe passes, and your quarterback throws it 2 interceptions. I don't know why when this team is up by 14, by 10, it's just like an automatic loss. It's embarrassing. It feels like the only way they win is if they're like fighting till the bitter end. And this is like an aging team of veterans that should know better, and they're just committing penalties and making egregious errors. So Israel says, I agree with Leroy, that's my dad, who this is mostly to blame on Kyle and the defense. I agree. I mean, I think both positions were out coached, and we saw the Vikings outcoached them. We saw the Rams outcoach. I mean, Sean McVay outcoached Kyle and Nick Sorensen. I mean, what are they going to do about Nick Sorensen? It's crazy that they fired Steve Wilkes, and now you look back at that defense and you're like, oh, I wish we could have that. We'd be such a better team. Are they going to try to make some switch? Because Brandon Staley is there, but we obviously don't know how that dynamic is actually coming together. Are they, working as a team all week long to create the game plan? And then Nick Sorensen is the one calling plays, and Brandon Staley is just like giving his opinions up in the booth. I don't know. All I know is when everyone and their mother was blaming Steve Wilkes for all the problems, they made him come out of the booth and down to the field. Maybe they'll try to do a little switcheroo. They'll put Nick Sorensen in the booth and bring Brandon Staley down. I don't know. I think both of them probably aren't worth SHIT because the 49ers were not at all excited to hire Nick Sorensen. They had the opportunity to hire him the year before. They went out with Steve Wilkes instead over him because they weren't confident in him. And then even this year, after firing Steve Wilkes, Nick Sorensen was the first guy that they interviewed, and they were so unimpressed that they then interviewed Daniel Bullocks, who's on the 49ers. They interviewed another guy who's on the 49ers. They went out and tried to interview guys outside. They tried to get Bill Belichick. They tried to get the Chiefs defensive coordinator. They tried to get everyone and their mother, and when everyone said no, then they hired Nick Sorensen. And then like a week later, we're like, also, we're hiring Brandon Staley so they can like co-team this. Brandon Staley, by the way, he coach of the head coach of the Chargers, who gave up like 70 on defense at one point. So I don't think either of them are worth their salt. Luckily, the Jets are looking horrible, so maybe by next year, Robert Saleh will be fired and Saleh will be back and he can be our defensive coordinator. But I would like to not punt this season. Like, that's thinking next season. I don't think Robert Saleh is going to get fired mid-season. If he did, I wonder if the 49ers would try to get him immediately. That would be kind of hilarious. But because that's what they've done, right? Like every time people are saying like, oh, don't overreact. The 49ers have been down before, blah, blah. Well, okay, 21, when the 49ers were on their losing streak and then they came back, they figured out the screen pass to Deebo Samuel. And that's when they started doing that. And the offense took off. No one, the opposing defenses had no film on Deebo being a running back. The wide back Deebo sensation was new, and it took the league by storm. And so they demolished it. Also, by the way, Mike McDaniel was on the coaching staff, and I feel like he has a lot of creativity. I know people are shitting on him right now because the Dolphins aren't doing so good. They're also playing with like a backup quarterback, and they did win today, I'm pretty sure. But so how they fixed their issue, quote, fix their touchdown issue, was by having the Deebo trick and taking defenses, starting to do something that defenses weren't expecting. Well, then by the next year, defenses were all the way prepared for Deebo Samuel and the screen pass and Deebo Samuel, the running back, and that shit stopped working. So the whole first half of the season, or all the way up until late October, the 49ers were struggling on offense. This was under Jimmy G, struggling on offense to score touchdowns. They could walk all the way down the field, just like now, but actually getting in the end zone, could not do it. If you remember that horrible Jimmy G game where the 49ers ended up losing the Broncos and the score was like 3-6 or some fucking shit, like the whole entire game, no offense did anything. How did they combat this issue? They traded for Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey was their new little wrinkle that Kyle could use to try to get defensive off guard. And so what was happening is on third down and in the red zone, you could just hand it. If Brock Purdy was ever this O-line, because the offensive line has always been an issue under the 49ers. But if Jimmy Garoppolo, and then once he got injured, Brock Purdy was ever under distress, you always had this dump off route to Christian McCaffrey. And although Jordan Mason is great, there was an example of this in this game where Jordan Mason, he was open, he caught the ball, got maybe like 6 yards, which is really good. But it was a pass that, like he ended up getting tackled. And it was one of those passes where you miss Christian McCaffrey because he could get those little dump off passes and end up going 20, 30 yards and scoring a touchdown. And so you do miss that. And I'm just wondering, they've utilized the Debo thing. They traded for Christian McCaffrey and gave up a ton of assets already. Now he's injured. What is going to be their little wrinkle to fix their offensive stalling now? Or is it just going to be Kyle Shanahan finally getting back to being creative, this offensive genius that everyone says he is? Because right now it doesn't feel that way. We have some people in the chat saying fire Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I wouldn't fire him. I would trade him if you're going to do either of those. Because at least if you trade him, you get assets back. Tell me in the comments, what is your guys' confidence in Kyle Shanahan right now? Are you open to trading him if things don't get better by next year? I mean, it's interesting. Like, I wonder, obviously Grant Cohn, he had that report in the start of the season that ownership was pretty dissatisfied with the amount of money they were spending on offense, and kind of regardless of the amount of money they've spent when they had cheaper teams and when they have the more expensive team that they have now, they've made it to the playoffs, made it to the NFC Championship. They haven't won the Super Bowl. So I guess the ownership's issue was kind of like, if we're going to spend a lot of money, you better win a freaking Super Bowl. If not, let us spend less and we're fine just going to playoffs. So it's going to be interesting if the 49ers do have a really low season. How is ownership going to react? The Lions, they have Ben Johnson. He looks really impressive as their offensive coordinator. He's made Jared Goff look like, could be in the MVP conversation, along with Stroud and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels. I've been talking for too long. Now I'm getting forgetful. Washington quarterback. Interesting. I don't know how ownership's going to reflect on this. There's a lot of injuries. Is that going to be an acceptable excuse for everyone? I'm not sure. It's not going to be an acceptable excuse for fans. But I'm also, like Israel said, I don't want to be too negative. I say after being like the biggest downer ever. But the NFC West is still wide open. I mean, the 49ers can still, if they win on against the Seahawks, they win. I don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs, but if they beat the Seahawks and they beat the Cowboys, they have bye week, so they go in tied up, and then they come out of the bye week tied up. But then what I'm saying, but like, I agree, but it's like, then they're going to have Green Bay in December. They have the Buffalo Bills. Like, these are teams that are going to be hard to win. I feel like that's their hardest stretch. And they're like, I thought they needed to win these games so that they had a cushion when they dropped these harder games, in my opinion, harder games in the future. Let me see what I have projected for them right now. So right now they have 2 wins and 3 losses. Duh. So they're 2-3. If they beat the Seahawks, that's 1 win. I don't think they're going to beat the Cardinals. So Cowboys, do you think they're going to beat? 1 win. Buccaneers are looking like a really good team. That's who they go. They have the bye week and then they go see the Buccaneers. I mean, maybe the Buccaneers are fake, but I don't know if you can say that at this point. Like, at this point, the 49ers look fake. What makes the Bucs look better than the 49ers right now? I don't think anything. But they see the Buccaneers. Before the season started, I thought that was going to be a win. Then they face the Seahawks again, but at home. I think at home versus the Seahawks might be an easier game than the short week, but I do think that this loss might motivate them. And so they might end up getting a win up in Seattle. But then they have the Packers. Packers look freaking good in, like I said, late November. December, they have the Bills. The Bears. I mean, the Bears have been bad the first half, but they just won their last game and Caleb Williams is getting better. By that point, are they going to be in a stride? Then they see the Rams again. I mean, I originally thought that was going to be a loss, but at this point, maybe Puka Nacua is back. Or is Cooper? I know one of them is on IR, which is 4 weeks. One of them's out for the season. I don't remember Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua, which one it is. But the Rams might be an even better team by the time the 49ers see them. Then they're going to see the Dolphins. I think that's a win just because, although the Dolphins won today, but they were going against the Patriots. That's how bad the Patriots are. Like, people, this is what pissed me off last week when, like, Fred Warner and the 49ers were all like, we're back against the freaking Patriots, which I don't even know the quarterback's name. of the Dolphins right now. Tyler Huntley. Is that his name? Kyler Huntley? Tyler Huntley? Huntley? Anyways, whoever the Dolphins guy is, they just beat the Dolphins. So I do think that's going to be a win. Although I probably won't be that hot because it's late December in Miami. So it'll probably just be normal. But then versus the Lions have a crazy defense. And then they're finishing week 18 against the Cardinals. That's going to be a must-win game. And for this veteran team, like they've needed the bye week to get to they've needed to get the first seed and then get the bye week just to rest their players to be able to go to the Super Bowl. The only time the 49ers have gotten to the Super Bowl, they've gotten that first seed and they've gotten a bye week. And now the 49ers are more injured and they're older and they played more football. They need that bye week. And now not only are they not going to get that bye week probably, but now they're going to have a must-win game in week 18. So they're going to have to play their ass off. I mean, once again, I'm like, oh yeah, like in my head, I'm like, they should win against the Cardinals. But then I'm like, oh, what game are we talking about right now? Oh yeah, the Cardinals game. Oh, they totally won. Oh no, they lost. They lost because they threw 2 interceptions, fumbled the football, couldn't score a touchdown to save their life. The defense couldn't make a tackle to save their life. Oh, so that's not going to be a gimme game. So like at this point, the 49ers are going to be fighting for playoff contention. Maybe they get in the playoffs. Sam Darnold and the Vikings are there and Sam Darnold gets exposed for being a bad quarterback and the 49ers end up beating them and competing in the playoffs. I mean, all that matters for the 49ers is getting into the playoffs and then playing their best football from there. But I mean, just to get into the playoffs is going to be a struggle. And I don't love people kind of saying it's an overreaction to say that isn't 100% likely. Kyle and Purdy can't close. Unfortunately, this is right. And I think I've been very positive on Brock Purdy, but right now you can't pay a quarterback $60 million if you give him the ball with 2 minutes or almost 2. I know it was a little less, but around 2 minutes left, and he throws an interception with the first freaking ball. That's not a $60 million guy. A $60 million guy, when given the opportunity to score a game-winning drive at the end, he takes that and he wins. And I guess we've seen Brock play better, so maybe it's something where he just panicked and put it all in himself. I know he's talked about in college feeling a lot of pressure to do it all. Dude, they're paying every guy on offense, on the tight end, highest paid, both wide receiver, huge paydays. The backup wide receiver, super impressive. The fullback, highest paid fullback. I mean, it's not all on you, dude. There's tons of weapons. I know the offensive line is breaking down, and that's on Kyle. He got out coached, but you've got to be able to dump it off. You got to be able to dump it off. You got to be able to see the field. Tom Brady talked about he always had the football out of his hands in 2 seconds or less. He had the football out of his hand. Brock Purdy, for everyone who's blaming the offensive line, I'm not saying it's wrong, but Brock Purdy has the longest in the entire NFL. He holds the ball for the longest. Out of all 32 quarterbacks, Brock Purdy has the longest time to throw. I think a lot of that is because he holds on to the football and he runs, and they count that time. And it's like, okay, how fair is that? He's kind of running for his life. But someone said, bro, the ball was tipped off of a free blitz. Brock Purdy has had multiple tip balls in every game this year. He had one against the Jets. He had 2 in the Vikings. He had 1 against the Rams. I think he even had a tip ball last game against the Patriots, even though they won. So I don't know, like that's not an excuse. Tip balls aren't good. I don't know if this is like in defense of Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy. I'm just saying, and all quarterbacks fucked up. Mr. Corey says Lamar Jackson looked like a $60 million quarterback. I know Matthew Stafford has thrown interceptions when he's tried to, win the game for his team. So I'm not saying quarterbacks never make issues. I'm not saying to not pay Brock Purdy $60 million. I'm just saying all of this is data. This is Brock Purdy's one last year before he gets paid. And I'm pretty sure they're going to pay him. But you got to make sure that this dude can freaking win when Christian McCaffrey's out. Like, that's one player. He has like 4 other all pro players. By the way, Debo, who knows where he was. Brandon Ayuk was having an excellent game. Just start feeding Brandon Ayuk. If you don't trust Kittle because he dropped the ball, and you don't want to throw the dump off pass to Jordan Mason for some reason, I don't know why they can't do that to him. I know he can't do everything that Christian McCaffrey does, but he can't catch a 5-yard pass. I don't know why. But Brandon Ayuk was catching the football. Just keep targeting him then. If you're going to be a hero and play hero ball and make risky plays, just start targeting him when you feel like he's hot. I'm not saying to do that every game, but if this game you felt like there was a connection there, you should have gone there even more. I mean, I think I wrote it down. He had 8 catches. I mean, Justin Jefferson had 14 today. So target BA more. Murray isn't even six feet tall. Tip passes, no excuse. I agree. Same thing, Baker Mayfield, who we just talked about, who's having a good year this year. Baker Mayfield is a shorter guy, and I remember his down year in Cleveland, he was having a lot of tip passes. Not an excuse. Not an excuse. You can't have tip passes. If you're going to talk about INTs, at least give him context. INTs aren't equal. Brock Purdy's interceptions were bad, and they were on Brock Purdy today. And I don't necessarily recognize your name. If you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, I've advocated for Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. I think he's played like a top 10 level quarterback this year. Last year, I think he was playing even better, but this year he's obviously doing it without Christian McCaffrey. I think he's been very impressive. I gave him a ton of praise earlier on this show for utilizing his legs when the pocket is breaking down. He's been so necessary. If we had Jimmy Garoppolo, that guy would have been injured and hurt, and we would have taken so many sacks for loss. When Brock Purdy can scramble out, make a throw, or scramble out and get the first down. Sometimes I've even said on here before, I don't mind the hero ball passes. Sometimes I want my quarterback to believe in himself and believe in his arm. I want my quarterback to believe in his wide receiver and give him a chance. Last game against the Patriots, he threw into freaking triple coverage to George Kittle, and it ended up being a good pass. That's great. But when you're doing that and making a stupid decision and holding onto the ball for longer than anyone else in the NFL, that last, by the way, interception, the game losing one, wasn't tipped. That shit was bad. That shit was a horrible fucking pass. A bad decision. Trying to get too much too fast, not seeing the field. We're allowed to criticize Brock Purdy, and I think they're going to pay him $60 million. I'm saying, hey, if you're paid $60 million, you need to be held to a higher standard. Anyways, sorry if I didn't mean to put that on you. I feel like people are so you have to do nothing but praise the team, or they're the opposite, and it's you have to be critical of everything. I like honesty. Some things are good, some things are bad. No players, Nick Bosa is maybe going to go to the Hall of Fame one day. He had an interception today that could have won the 49ers the game. It definitely gave them an opportunity to score a touchdown. I think they got a field goal off of it. That was a great play. Nick Bosa's had a bad year for Nick Bosa's standards. There was one pressure halfway through the game. Nick Bosa, that's unacceptable. Oh, he's getting triple teamed. So is Myles Garrett. So is TJ Watt. If you're the best of the best, if you're a defensive MVP player of the year, which Nick Bosa is and those guys are, you're going to get a lot of attention and you're expected to make plays anyways. I feel that way. I think Brock Purdy should be held to the same standard. I don't think of Brock Purdy as the all shucks little Mr. Irrelevant guy. I think of him as a guy who's a franchise quarterback and who makes some awesome plays, but also sometimes seems to get frazzled. And I don't know what that's about, but he himself has admitted to this, which is something I appreciate about Brock Purdy, because when Jimmy Garoppolo used to make airhead decisions, he all of a sudden started speaking French and be like, we, and start blaming the entire team. And it's no, you moron, you didn't see the linebacker. So I appreciate that Brock Purdy takes credit when he does make a mistake. And I thought he had, like I said, I didn't think he had the worst game, but at the end of the day, if you have an opportunity to win the game and you throw a touchdown, you deserve a little bit of criticism. I'm not saying don't pay him. I'm just saying, like, pay attention to these things. Don't panic. This isn't Brock. It's the kicker. It's not the kicker. We're not allowed to. That's one of. We're not allowed to blame the kicker situation. The Cardinals also didn't have their kicker, and then their backup kicker, he got his punt returned for a touchdown. So they had a huge in the red negative on their kicker situation, and they still won. So we're not allowed to blame the kicker. The red zone issue has been a problem all year. Nick Bosa even talked about this. It should never come to the kicker. You should be able to score in the red zone. If you go to the red zone 10 times and you score one of those times, which is that's what the 49ers did. They scored once in the red zone today, one time. That's bad on your coach. That's bad on your players. It's mostly bad coaching. How do your players not have a play that they can execute to score when you have 3 to 4 opportunities in the red zone? The red zone has been a problem. I think they were 2 of 10 against the Vikings. I think they were bad in the red zone, even against the Patriots. Just luckily the Patriots were so bad it didn't kill them. But the 49ers have been horrible in the red zone. They're literally like ranked last in red zone opportunities right now. So this is like statistically correct too. So we're not allowed to blame the kicker. You should be able to score a touchdown. If they would have scored touchdowns, by the way, Jake Moody didn't get hurt in the first half. They would have scored touchdowns the first 3 times that they kicked field goals. And then Jake Moody went down. They would have been up. I can't do math. What's 4? So 8. And then 8 plus 7, 14, 15. They would have been up by 15 more points by the time Jake Moody went out. If they would have scored touchdowns before Jake Moody went out. So something to think about. We can't blame the kicker situation. Cardinals had kicker issues. It bit them in the ass. They still found a way to win. If you have a good quarterback and an offensive weapon and you have a good coach, you should be able to figure it out. And the 49ers have all those things, but for some reason it's not flowing together. Blah, blah, blah. It's kicker and turnover via Mason away. I mean, that wasn't good on Mason. I agree. It's very upsetting, but we will bounce back in a big way. I mean, this is what I understand the mindset because you're a fan. I'm a fan. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking like this right now because like they've been bad against bad teams. This doesn't seem like a team that is just like. And also, how are they gonna bounce back? Their guys are there playing. Are they gonna bounce back when Christian McCaffrey comes back in? Apparently November 7th is the date that Adam Schefter said he's going to come back. They're going to wait till then. Well, if they lose games until then, they're not going to make the playoffs, even if when he comes back, they do good. On defense, they've been bad. Their D-line is not good. Even if their best players are playing good. I mean, Fred Warner, before getting hurt, had the game of his life last week. They lost. I don't know. Maybe they'll do good. Like I said, the NFC West is down. So they can still go to the playoffs, and maybe by then they'll ramp it up. I think I'm just nervous because this is a veteran team that has a lot more wear and tear on it because they've continuously gotten to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship. And those playoff runs, that's like a whole extra season on their body. That's why they have so many injuries right now. I mean, in this game alone, they had Huff, Moody, Brown, Juwan. They had 4 guys go down just in this game. And I don't even know how that's possible because I felt like they were already out of all their guys. So injuries are going to be a problem to look on. But yeah, I mean, if the injuries stop, the guys that are injured get healthy, Kyle Shanahan can come up with a little wrinkle, but she should be able to. He has in the past. I don't doubt that. I think Brock Purdy can be a good quarterback. So maybe they will bounce back. It's definitely possible. I think it's just hard for me to read today. Maybe tomorrow. Like and subscribe. I'll go live tomorrow and maybe I'll be less emotional and agree with you. I don't mean to attack you. With all due respect, the Cardinals kicker is a backup kicker. I'm not going to have this conversation. The Cardinals kicker, he lost the ball and it got returned for a touchdown. So they lost on special teams. Like, if you were to rank the kicker problems, their kicker problems were not as, or were worse than ours because they literally had their kicker. He went to punt the ball and it got blocked and returned for a touchdown. And it didn't just get blocked and then the offense took over. It got blocked and then the 49ers literally got 7 points off of it because of their kicker. So we can't say that their kicker was good. I don't care if he was a real kicker versus Mitch, which I can't say his last name, Mitch W. I understand your point. Mitch also made his field goal. Like maybe you could say this if the one field goal that Mitch tried to do, he couldn't make. Mitch also got 3 points for them. Is this something that they want to travel to Seattle with? No, they want to sign someone off the street. I agree. But this particular game, you're not going to blame the kicker problem. No. Sorry. False equivalency is out of this world. Damn, I mean, I'm so interested. Do you want to call in tomorrow? I'm gonna probably log off soon, but I'll do a show tomorrow, and I'd love to debate you face to face in a nice way. I don't mean this in a negative way. I like a good healthy debate. Anyways, Lemire, I hope I'm saying your name right. You're always in the chat. Says, boo, this man. Kyle can't hold a lead. Shanahan. Yeah, red zone bumps, overrated NFC championship. I mean, it looks bad that they were on a podcast 2 weeks ago saying they were the best in the league, for sure. Israel says, agree with Ashley. We are third and second oldest team in the NFL. Yeah, I think that's why I'm harping on the fact that like these games matter so much because these are division games and they're against worse competition. And in my mind, I'm planning on there being losses later on in the season against harder defenses and colder weather. And like these in division games should be ones that you're going to win. And even if you weren't going to get the bye week, what the 49ers could have done if they would have won a division game and still not gotten the first seed is if they had enough to get into the playoff, had enough wins to get into the playoffs, just not to get the bye week, they could have sat against the Cardinals. But now they won't. Week 18 is the Cardinals game. But now they won't be able to do that because you have to win your division to get in. So that's why I'm freaking out about this game specifically. Like, yes, they can still get to the playoffs even if they don't get that bye week, but they could have given themselves a fake bye week 18, but now they're going to need to win that because they've already lost 2 division games. So 3 if you want to count the Vikings, but I'm just talking about the NFC West, so the Rams and the Cardinals. The guy who I was just talking about said he would call in. The only reason I said I'm not going to put it in the chat today is because I'm going to finish up the comments and then I'm going to sign out because I've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, but I'll go live tomorrow. So if you're liked, you don't have to like, but I would appreciate it, but you don't need to. If you're subscribed, I'll go live tomorrow. And for not just this guy, but for anyone in the chat, I'll put the call in and tomorrow you guys can call in. And I'll probably be less emotional too. And maybe it won't even be a debate because I'll see your side more, but I'm pretty emotional right now. Mr. Corey, sadly, I blame Jordan Mason. We're going to make it a 2-score day, blah, blah, talking. This is why I'm going to end it soon. They were going to make it a 2-score game after a touchdown, and he fumbled. I know. It sucks. It sucks that I like Jordan Mason, and, like, I've been rooting for him, and I'm just like, damn. Like, he's, at this point, lucky that Christian McCaffrey's injured, because if he was not injured, Jordan Mason would never see the field again. Did he have 2 fumbles last game? He just recovered them, right? So it wasn't as big of a deal. Like, he needs to stop fumbling the football. Am I wrong about that? Someone can put in the comments. I know that he had at least 1 fumble last game. He might have had 2. I can't remember if he had 2 and I know one of them he recovered. But he's fumbled a couple times this season. You got to hang on to the football. Now, I feel bad. It was like 103 degrees out. I'm sure they were like sweaty. He's running. Shit happens, but still. Israel says, you're going to go live again tomorrow. I am going to go live again tomorrow. Please win against Seattle. I know, I'm hoping. That's embarrassing. Some of these fans going with the excuse of kickers. If the 49ers are relying on kickers for doing something wrong, I agree with you, and so does Nick Bosa. I mean, one of the B reporters, I don't remember which one. Usually I remember their voices, so I know what Matt Mayoko sounds like. I know what Eric Branch sounds like and what Grant sounds like, but I forget who this was. But one of the media members in the post game asked Nick Bosa basically same thing, like, "Oh, do you think the kicker situation changed the effect?" And I'm not saying that it didn't, but I'm saying what Nick Bosa's response is and what I imagine they're telling the team is if you're relying, like if you're in a situation where you don't believe in yourself to score a touchdown, you're relying on kickers, then you've already lost the game. If it's coming down to field goals, you're losing the game anyways. And that's what Nick Bosa said is it should have just never gotten to that. Which I agree with. Ay. I'm going live tomorrow. Sorry, I'm reading the comments. Drew, our only bad loss was the Vikings. Can you tell I'm getting tired? The other two was on ourselves making mistakes, self-inflicted errors. But making self-inflicted mistakes is a bad loss. Like I'd actually rather just be beaten by a good team with a creative defensive coordinator. Like it looks like Brian Flores has. I mean, are the Vikings undefeated right now? Their defense is shocking all quarterbacks. So I'd rather be beaten by just a good defensive coordinator than lose games because of penalties or turnovers. That's shit that you should be able to. That's coaching. That's player execution. That's a worse loss in my opinion than just being like literally the not as good of a team. I don't know if that wasn't great English. I'm gonna check out because I've been talking for a little over an hour and 15 minutes. But yeah, Brock Purdy needs to start playing like an elite quarterback if he wants to get paid. I think his legs have been a huge plus, but the turnovers have not been. Vikings are 5-4. Their defense is very impressive. Sam Darnold was missing throws like crazy though. The Jets almost came back. I don't believe in Sam Darnold, so I'm waiting for them to get exposed. But I do think that they have a really, really good defense. I think Brian Flores will probably be a head coach again because he was head coach of the Dolphins and they had the same score as Mike McDaniel did last time. Now, obviously, apparently he wasn't very like player friendly, but at least as a coordinator and a guy who does scheme, he's really good. So maybe if he can convince teams that he's changed his morale and attitude. And then plus now that Tua's hurt, I wonder if people are kind of side-eyeing the like differences there and being like, all right, well, yeah, it was hard on Tua, but Tua's not very good. I don't know. I feel bad saying that because obviously Tua I hope he's healthy. I think he should retire. I know that that's on him, but anyways. I'm going to shut it off now because I'm just rambling. Thank you guys so much. Please like and subscribe. I'll go live tomorrow. Had a great time talking with all you guys. So sorry about this loss, but still have a good night and a good week anyways. Hopefully it's a short week, so we'll have lots of content coming to you. Like I said, I'm going live tomorrow. Then we'll do a call-in show going live Tuesday with Tom. Doing a little pregame before then, and then I'll be reacting to the Seahawks game in no time. So hopefully that'll be a win, and this will just be brushed under the rug. See you guys. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. Even if you want, leave a comment. I've heard that helps with the algorithm, and I would appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Have a great one. Bye, guys.